Hello everybody! Before we begin, I would like to let you all know that I have a book out. It is called Not Quite Dead, and it is the story of a woman whose fiancé passed away a year ago, having dreams where he tells her that he's still alive and trying to use said dreams to get him back. It is available on Amazon in both paperback and ebook formats, so if you've ever wanted to support me financially, then this is your opportunity to do so. Link is in the description. Hey gang, it's Squill, and we've looked at the comics. Now let's give some spotlight to another piece of supplemental Adventure Time media, the video games. For a while, pretty much every decently popular animated series got a licensed video game to accompany it. Although, most of said games were just cheap shovelware made for the sake of turning a cheap buck. But every so often, you get something genuinely good. What category do the Adventure Time games fall in? Well, that's what I plan on finding out today. Over the course of the past year or so, I set out to play every mainline Adventure Time game, with the intention to rank them in a video. Adventure Time actually has a pretty extensive video game history, so we need to set some ground rules. First off, I'm only counting console games, so games on the App Store or Cartoon Network's website will not be counted. This also includes the VR game Magic Man's Head, as I have no way of playing that. I also will not be counting any crossover game that features Adventure Time characters, like LEGO Dimensions or Multiverses, nor am I including any game with Adventure Time skins like Brawlhalla or Fortnite. Lastly, I want to clarify that for 4 out of these 5 games, I played the 3DS versions, and as such, will be judging them based on those versions, even if I use footage from their console versions, as they are obviously of higher quality. The only exception here is Pirates of the Enchiridion, which I played on Steam, as that game did not have a 3DS version. Why did I play the 3DS versions of these games? Well, as we all know, it's actually very easy to hack your 3DS. But dubiously legal activities aside, here is my ranking of all 5 Adventure Time video games. At number 5, we have Explore the Dungeon because I don't know. Mouthful title, I know, but that's the least of this game's problems. I'm not one to go out of my way to play infamously bad video games. You know, your ETs, your Big Rigs, your Sonic 06s. So keep that in mind when I tell you that Explore the Dungeon because I don't know is one of the worst video games I've ever had the displeasure of experiencing. I'll be nice and start with some positives. Like the other early Adventure Time games, the pixel art here is very pleasing to look at. The characters all look very cute and charming. And speaking of the characters, there's a good variety in terms of who's playable here, more so than any other Adventure Time game. This definitely gets points for being the only game in which the King of Mars is a playable character. Which would be awesome if this game was actually good. I'm sorry, I just find this whole game to be such a drag. There are 100 levels in the game, and they are all exactly the same. Same enemies, same obstacles, same gameplay, same music. It just gets so repetitive and tedious. And you wanna know the worst part? The layout for each dungeon is randomly generated, meaning that for some of them, the exit is placed right next to you, and for others, you'll be searching for like 20 minutes. And the game only saves your progress every 5 or so levels. So if you die 5 dungeons in, you have to do the last 4 all over again. This problem could have been solved if there was a map you could look at to find the exit, but there isn't one. So you're just wandering around aimlessly, hoping that you'll just so happen to find the exit. It's borderline unplayable after a while, because you're just spending so much time searching in almost identical looking dungeons. Every 20 or so levels there's a slight aesthetic change, but that's it. It's genuinely obnoxious. Oh, and if you take too long to beat a level, Death will find you and attack you. He can pull you in closer and he takes away so much health. And worst of all is that he sings every time he appears. And on the 3DS speakers, it is just the most ear-piercing sound imaginable. Genuinely, every time he appeared, I turned my volume down all the way. Just so incredibly ear-grating. I unfortunately did not beat Explore the Dungeon. I wanted to, I really did, if nothing else than to say I beat all of the Adventure Time games. But on top of the game just not being very good, the later levels also started crashing my 3DS for some reason, which, in all honesty, might be a blessing in disguise. At number 4, we have Secrets of the Nameless Kingdom. Man, this is a game that I really wanted to like. This is leaps and bounds better than Explore the Dungeon in a lot of ways, and there are things I really appreciate in this one. First off, this is the first Adventure Time game to be fully voice acted, which is really cool. It makes the game feel more alive than the previous two. Pendleton Ward actually wrote the dialogue for this game, and you can tell. The Finn and Jake banner here feels like it came right out of the actual show. It's also cool that Finn has his grass sword here, slotting this game somewhere during the last stretch of Season 5, between Blade of Grass and Billy's Bucket List. That's actually something a few of the Adventure Time games do, tying themselves into the continuity of the actual show. Even though they're obviously non-canon, it's appreciated regardless. Unfortunately, the more I played this game, the less I found myself enjoying it. I think I just don't like it when games like this are super cryptic. Like, a character will ask you for something so you can progress, and you're forced to either look up a walkthrough to find it, or just wander around until you eventually stumble into it. I'm not saying I want the game to hold my hand or anything, but just something to point me in the right direction would be nice. Also, while the sprite work for this game is very good, I find the map itself to be incredibly boring. It's just the 3 samey looking grass areas with very little distinction from each other. The titular Nameless Kingdom is a very boring location compared to most of the kingdoms from the show. Unfortunately, this is another one that I just couldn't bring myself to finish. I wanted to, but I got to a point where Radaballs told me I needed 20 gumballs in order to progress in the game, and I only had 7. I spent literal hours just wandering around trying to find gumballs, but they're so scarcely placed across the map that I just couldn't find them all. I don't know, maybe at some point I'll try to give this game another go. But as is, I think it's just not for me. Which is a shame, because I could totally see this ending up as the best Adventure Time game. And I'm sure it is for some people. I just, unfortunately, don't fall into that camp. At number 3, we have Pirates of the Enchiridion. I'm sure a lot of you were expecting this game to be lower on the list. Pirates is pretty infamous for just being very buggy and crashing out a lot. But as I said before, I played the Steam version of this game, which also isn't perfect and can absolutely be buggy at times, but it's not that bad. I definitely would not recommend the Switch version of this game. I've heard horror stories about how bad it runs. But when you remove the glitchiness, you get a game that's pretty alright overall. I've always wanted a big open world Adventure Time game with a fully explorable map of Ooo, and this game almost kinda halfway gives it to me. You do get to explore places like the Candy Kingdom, Flame Kingdom, Ice Kingdom, but they're sectioned off due to a massive flood. It gives me a bit of a taste of what I'd want from my dream Adventure Time game, but I obviously get why they couldn't hard commit to it. The sailing controls can be a little awkward at times, but they're not too bad. This is another game that actually does implement the continuity of the show in a fun way. Seeing as it released not too far away from Couple On With Me airing, they managed to implement Gumball and Fern into the story. Although they couldn't get Fern's voice actor, Hayden Ezzy, to return for this game, and as such, Fern sounds pretty rough here. But it's cool that he's in the game at all. There are really only 2 things that hold this game back for me, outside of the bugs. And I'll admit, the first one is just a personal thing, but I've never liked the turn-based RPG style of gameplay. I find it so mind-numbingly boring, just pressing a singular button for each character, waiting for the enemy to do their attack, then rinse and repeat. I've just never found it fun, even in games I enjoy, to have to pause what I'm doing to fight enemies, with an exception for games like Undertale that put a spin on this format. And my other major criticism is that the game is just really short. The final boss is so easy and the ending is so anticlimactic that it didn't even register for me that the game was over until the credits started playing. Which is a bit of a shame because I do enjoy exploring the land of Ooo, even this heavily downscaled version of it. Pirates is a game that easily could have been the best of Adventure Time's licensed games, but as is, it's just okay. Not a bad game at all, but not a great one either. At number 2, we have Finn and Jake Investigations. Investigations is a pretty fun time overall. I've always had a soft spot for point-and-click adventure type games, and I think it's a format that fits Adventure Time quite well. Just getting to explore some places anew and interact with a bunch of characters and objects. There's some neat puzzles you can solve and some decently fun stories you get to play through. The gameplay is very simple, but it's still enjoyable, especially as a fan of the series. There are 5 main stories here, acting as extended episodes of the show itself, complete with their own unique title cards, which is pretty cool. They're all pretty solid, but I'd say my favorite story of the bunch would be the finale, Album Recover, just for the fact that it involves recruiting so many characters. I only have 2 criticisms with the game, neither of which are deal breakers, but they both take away from the game a little bit. The first is that the game frequently makes you play these beat-em-up sequences that are just not very fun at all to me. It pretty much just amounts to button mashing the entire time, very lame. And the second is that the game is constantly referencing the Finn and Flame Princess breakup, having Finn get all awkward around Phoebe, to a point where it just gets annoying. 1 or 2 references would be fine, but it feels like we're getting little bits of the Red Throne sprinkled throughout the game. But despite those couple of issues, Finn and Jake Investigations is still a pretty fun time. It's definitely nothing mind-blowing, just a solid point-and-click adventure game with an Adventure Time skin, but that's all it really needs to be. And at number 1, we have Hey Ice King, Why'd You Steal Our Garbage? Yup, the very first Adventure Time game is still the best in the series, and it's not particularly close. It's just such a fun time, and the only game here with virtually no major flaws, with my biggest criticism just being that there's the occasional backtracking you have to do, but that's really about it. I love the sprite work in this game. It's easily the best looking Adventure Time game. The characters all look great and there's some good variety in the settings, unlike the other way-forward Adventure Time games that feel kinda samey. This game just captures that early Adventure Time vibe so well. This game's soundtrack is genuinely incredible. So many bangers here. With even a few lyrical songs too, that's awesome. There's some fun exploration in this game too, just getting to roam around Ooo and interact with a bunch of characters. The dungeons in this game are all really well designed, incorporating Finn and Jake's abilities really nicely. Oh, and that's another one of my favorite aspects of the game. The fact that you can learn new abilities and level up Finn and Jake's powers throughout the game. Obviously, Hey Ice King isn't the first game to do this, but it just adds to your sense of progression throughout the game, making you feel like you're getting stronger alongside Finn and Jake. I've always really liked the idea of playing as Finn while having Jake hang out in his backpack to stretch and help Finn out. It really makes the 2 boys feel like a team and shows off their brotherly bond really well in gameplay. Hey Ice King, Why'd You Steal Our Garbage is a game that just exudes early Adventure Time in the best way possible. It matches the joy and whimsy of those early seasons perfectly, while also just being a solid game, even when separated from the IP it's based on. It's not an outstanding game that everyone must play or anything, but it's just really solid, and I recommend it to any Adventure Time fan. So that was every Adventure Time game ranked. We've got 1 really bad game, 1 really good game, and 3 in the decent to just okay range, rounding the Adventure Time games out to being just alright. You could definitely do a lot worse for a batch of licensed games. I mean, the fact that only 1 of these games is downright bad is kind of a miracle. But Hey Ice King is the only one of these I highly recommend. It's a shame because I really do think Adventure Time could make for a great video game. Just give it a high budget and let us be able to explore the Land of Ooo in a sandbox type game and you're golden. I'd probably play that game every day for the rest of my life. If you're looking for a game with some of the same vibes as Adventure Time, then I'd honestly recommend Bugsnats. It's a fun, whimsical world filled with silly, colorful characters, but like Adventure Time, there's some deeper layers to them than what meets the eye, as well as some dark implication about the world these characters live in, with some incredibly fun and addicting gameplay on top of that. One of my absolute favorite games of all time. But let me know how you'd rank the Adventure Time games in the comments, as well as what you would want out of your dream Adventure Time game. Have a good one, and Squill out.